again everyone, welcome back to another episode of Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. My name is Mars, and today we're going to be talking about Ellesperis, or Ellesperis, or however the heck you call her, because once again we have another unit that I don't know how to say their name, and quite honestly, I don't know how much how much I care. So, Ellesperis recently got some ability enhancements that were free, that have turned her from basically being one of the worst units in the game, not worst, I mean she was pretty bad, but now she is far, far better, and one of the things that has made her a lot better is that her trust reward has the ability to be crafted into an enhanced version that is two-handed, and that by itself has improved her substantially, but in addition to that, they've just made her a stronger unit. And yeah, as far as her item upgrades, that's about what she got. And as far as damage upgrades, she kind of functions similar to Axstar or Xeno, where certain abilities buff her outgoing damage, and you kind of stack those up and then blow your opponents away. So with this guide, we're basically going to just be looking at the unit and what sort of things you can do to ramp up her damage and then blow your enemies away. So when I'm playing with Ellesperis, usually the first thing I do, and I always use multi-dexterity because that's triple cast and you always have it. Ambidexterity is just dual cast, so multi-dexterity, if you want to get yourself started, you want to use Hemomancer's Blade. Now this increases the modifier for your abilities for, I think, 5 turns, and also increases your attack. And then from there you can choose which one of her imbue skills you want. You can do imbue ice or imbue dark. Let's do dark because I never get to do that. And then from here you can kind of choose the route that you want to go in terms of how you set her up. So Hemomancer's Armor is a useful cooldown skill that fills her limit burst gauge all the way, and her limit burst increases her damage modifier, so that's an option you could take at this point. Hemomancer's Blade damages her, so another option is to use Blood Dance to heal her back up. I think your best damage option in terms of, getting your damage going right away is to use Open You Up, which is the skill right here. So we'll go ahead and use those 3 in succession, and that should be your first turn for setting up damage. Oh yeah. Her animations look amazing. Now from this stage you can kind of choose how you want to set up. A lot of people recommend that you just go straight into doing her damage abilities, which are Blood Dance and Blood Flash. One restores MP and the other restores HP, so you can kind of choose whichever one you want. If you're looking to build up your damage a little bit more before unleashing it, you can go with Hemomancer's Armor to fill her limit burst, and then use Overflow and Jaw Dropper. Those will increase her defenses by giving her re-raise, some mitigation, and some mirage stacks, as well as just increasing her outgoing damage. So those are good ones to use as well. And you'll see her HP likes to hang out real low, because a lot of her abilities damage herself. But her limit burst actually heals her quite a bit, and this is probably the point where I would use it, because we are building up those stacks. The limit burst builds it further. And it looks very, very cool. My goodness. It's a very cool looking limit burst. So now this is basically where she's at, where she's fully stacked. And you can basically go crazy with her best abilities, which are Blood Flash or Blood Dance. I do think it is better damage overall if you skip the turn where we did Jaw Dropper, Overflow, and Hemomancer's Armor. I think if you skip that turn, it's more damage to just do triple Blood Flash instead, because otherwise you basically skip a whole turn of damage. In this way, this is better for burst rotations, but you would skip that previous turn with the armor and the self-buffing if you're just looking for better damage over time. So let's look what this burst turn would look like. And it chains very easily. That's one of the things about Ellesperis that's awesome, is she chains very, very easily. And then this is where you would... Oh, you wouldn't start over quite yet. Sorry. Because your first cooldown's not back up. Hemomancer's Blade, because that sets you up. We do have another turn of damage we can do, and that's where I'd recommend doing Blood Flash. And whenever you have Hemomancer's Strike, you want to use that as your... Oops, not that one. I did the ice one on accident. You want to do Blood Flash and... oh my gosh, I did it again. Mars, learn how to play the game. Blood Flash and Hemomancer's Strike. If you use it as the third one in the ability rotation, it makes it so that it starts out fully capped if you're chaining it with another Ellesperis, and it looks roughly like this. And Hemomancer's Strike does a lot more damage than her other abilities, or her other chaining abilities. Now, as you can see, I've brought her HP real low. She has 2 HP. If ever you're worried about her surviving, this is where you can just do Blood Dance instead of Blood Flash. Blood Flash is just really nice because it keeps her MP up the whole time. She doesn't need an MP battery if she is using that skill. But using her HP skill can definitely come in handy as well. So yeah, and then you start rotating, or going through that rotation again, just through Hemomancer's Blade, Self-Imbue, and Imperil with Open You Up, and then do her other buffing moves if you want to, or just go straight into her triple cast Blood Dance or Blood Flash skills. So that's about it on using Ellesperis. She's really quite versatile in that, you know, oh shoot, the boss has a mechanic coming in, I can't damage him this turn, I may as well just pop some, you know, some of these abilities, buff up my damage for the following turn, and just not touch the boss, or the boss is mitigating or whatever. She's really good in that regard because she can do abilities that are good holding pattern abilities that prep her for big damage. So that's something that I think is really handy about Ellesperis, and that can frustrate me about other damage dealers. They don't always have the best things to do when you can't damage the boss, but Ellesperis always seems to have something she can do. And speaking of stuff she can do, one ability I kind of glossed over is, let's go ahead and imbue Ice and Imperil Ice. She does have Human Splitter and Demon Splitter, both of which are really nice for when you're fighting those types of enemies. She does also have innate Human and Demon Killer, so if you're fighting those types of opponents, go ahead and weave those into your abilities, and it will really increase her damage output against those enemy types. Now, one other thing that's good to note about Ellesperis is that most of her abilities are part of the Bolting Strike chain family, which means anybody who's got that, she can chain with them. Makes her a pretty decent chain partner for Esther, because she also has an Aerial Ray ability with her Vengeful Blade, this guy right here. So that can allow you to chain with Esther's Limit Burst, so that's definitely an option. Not something you'll probably ever catch me doing. I prefer to use duplicate chaining partners. It tends to be more effective on the whole, but if you're looking at a non-duplicate chaining option for Esther, Ellesperis is not a bad choice because she does have that Bolting Strike frame option as well as the Aerial Ray option as well. Now, one of our other abilities that is worth keeping in mind, just in case you happen to need it, would be Blood Sacrifice, which is this guy right here. This is an Octaslash chaining ability, and while the Octaslash family isn't super popular, there are some units that you can use that have this, and so you never know if it comes in handy. So that pretty much covers most of her abilities. I think Ellesperis really shines against demons and humans, given her passives and her active abilities that make her more effective against it. Overall, she has struck me as a more impressive unit than I initially thought she would be. So she's been a lot of fun to play with. So let's dive into some of the builds to help you figure out how you can make use of Ellesperis. Alright, this first build that we have is the STMR tier build with pretty much the best stuff that you can find. There are a few ways to improve it, of course. My builds are never perfect, but this is the sort of thing that I personally run because I have a lot of these items. It includes using Axstar's STMR, which is the best katana in the game, in addition to using Ellesperis' own STMR to proc her Trust passive. The rest of her gear is oriented towards true double hand, katana passives, and a little bit of tankiness with Coin of Fate Sabin. Now, I tend to equip Ellesperis with Diabolos because I use Ellesperis against demons and humans, and wouldn't you know it, Diabolos has human and demon killer. So that tends to be the orientation I recommend for Ellesperis. Use Diabolos, maximize her attack, and then leave an open slot for a killer materia, because you can always fit Maneater Plus, Demon Killer, Maneater. You could use Night Deleta's STMR if you have that, or you could use Lunara's STMR if you have that as well for the extra Demon Killer. And that's sort of like the aspirational build. Now, if you're someone who's trying to build Ellesperis on a budget, don't you worry. Ellesperis still performs very, very well without any STMRs. This particular build that I'm showcasing uses her Onimaru Plus, which is the upgraded version of her Trustmaster reward. It's very, very good. It's two-handed. It gives her damage variance. If you don't have X-Star's TMR and Ellesperis' STMR, then you definitely want to go for Onimaru Plus, because it does give you a lot of value. Now, aside from that, we are equipped with a lot of other attack stuff. Martial Glove for the true double hand, as well as Buster Style to cap her out at 300% true double hand. Suzume's Kimono is some flat attack with some attack with katana conditional. Disparate Swordsman is a 70% katana attack TMR, as well as Legendary Guardian, which comes from Auron. And once again, we have Diabolos equipped because you gotta stack those Man-Eaters. That's probably, or the Man and Demon Killers, of course. Those are the most important to stack on her if you're going to be taking her against his opponents. However, you can slot in whatever Esper or Killer you want. So, the overall assessment with Ellesperis, a lot of people are likely to ask, like, how much is she worth it? You know, is she worth it for me? I personally think she's an incredibly versatile unit. Permanent triple cast opens up a lot of options. She's very flexible in terms of what she can do in a given turn. Nothing is really locked behind cooldowns or locked behind a limit burst or locked behind any abilities. So she can basically give you what you need in the drop of a hat. She is very flexible in that regard. I think one of her main drawbacks is that she does have quite low spirit compared to a lot of similar damage dealers. She's kind of like the inverse of Sabin, where she has decent defense but lower spirit, whereas Sabin has much higher spirit but lower defense. So she can get pretty decent HP, so you know you can keep the HP pretty high, but her spirit does suffer a little bit. So against magic heavy fights like Lich, she may struggle to survive a little bit, but with a little bit of equipment or a little bit of pots, she can do the job for you. As far as whether or not you should invest in her, I think that comes down to whether or not you like her, whether or not you have the equipment for her, who you want to pair her with. There are currently enough Ellesperis friends out there that you could go ahead and use her and knock out some trials. Humans are a relatively common boss type, so I can definitely see her coming in handy for those as well. So that pretty much sums up all my thoughts about Ellesperis. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of her? Have you enjoyed using her since she got her free ability enhancements? Share with me in the comments below, and I'll see everybody in the next video.